Hello everyone. Welcome to Music Talk at McNally. I think this is actually our 11th season here at McNally Robinson on PD6 territory. And my guest is Judith Yan. Welcome back to Saskatoon, Judith.
Very happy to be here.
So now the funny thing about all of this is that we sent you off on an airplane 4 weeks ago.
That's correct.
And said, see you in May. Have a great opera.
Yes.
And I was saying earlier to one of the staff that, you know, my job is really cool because I get to meet these incredible people, these incredible artists. We become friends, and then they regret texting me.
That's not true.
It's very true, because what happened was we had Chinese conductor Yu Bao coming to do this show, and I was in a meeting Saturday morning. And my phone went off, and I ignored it. And then I got a text message from a cell phone number I didn't know, and I'm going, I don't know this person. And I picked it up, and it was Yu's agent, and she said, Yu is very sick. I have to head into a concert. Talk to you in 2 hours. And as a producer, the last thing on earth you ever want to have anyone say is, talk to you in 2 hours, because that left me in the ether. It was the in between land. It was not living. It was not dead. It was somewhere else. And fascinatingly, you know, you start a list. I texted some of the staff. I said, this is an all hands on deck day, because it's not just replacing the person on the podium. It's confirming that we can get music to them. It's confirming they might know the repertoire, so that thankfully they don't have to learn it. It's changing all of the photos on even on the program. God bless Megan on the staff. She's over here tonight, because all of a sudden it was like she jumped into action and went, okay, I have to like change the website and everything, and she did. And hilariously, one of the staff said, can Judith do it? And I said, I'm not even talking to her, because she's going onto the stage tonight for a world premiere of a brand new opera.
Oh.
And so I'm not even going to bother her. So meanwhile, I sit and I do my homework, and I'm looking at people we know, conductors we know well, because you want someone who's got a bit of a shorthand with the orchestra language. And every single human that I would consider to put on our podium without flinching was on a podium somewhere. All of you. And you texted me. I didn't text you. You texted me and said, how's your day going? I'm on the way to the theater. And I said, the day's stressful because our conductor is sick. And you went, oh, I could come and do a rehearsal.
Until they arrive. Rehearsal. Conductor.
Rehearsal. I could come and do a rehearsal.
Yes, I would do that for no one, but only for Mark.
Yeah.
Only for Mark. And
then I finally hear back from the agent who lets me know that no, Yu is actually so ill she's not going to be allowed to travel. And so then I said to Judith, well, no, I'm looking for someone for the whole week. And your response was classic, because you went, well, I know Rock Pag. Which is what us in the industry call the Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini by Rachmaninoff. We call it Rock Pag. And you went, I know Rock Pag. I did it 10 years ago. That was the last time. I know Rock Pag.
10 years ago. Okay.
And then you said, oh, I know Dvorak 7. My intent was not to stress you out on the performance of the opera. But conducting a world premiere opera is stress on its own enough, and so maybe this provided a welcome distraction.
It did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Even though at a very difficult point of this really beautiful opera, but very difficult opera, Dvorak 7 popped into my mind, and I thought, oh, no, push it away. But also, I started trying to, these things whirl through your mind, right? It's like, can I do this? Like, you know, because it's really exhausting. Like, Mark is absolutely right to put together a new production.
Yeah, a world premiere is it's a lot of work. And you have also, at that point, while we were texting, you'd been on the road for 6 straight weeks. Because if you don't remember, you were here in September.
That's right.
And let's talk about that for a second,
Okay.
because in September, you came with us to the moon.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
It was pretty incredible, wasn't it?
It was an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah, it
Yes.
really, I remember when I first pitched the idea to you, so we performed under Luke Jerram's Museum of the Moon. We're the first ever orchestra to perform at the Museum of the Moon. And when we booked it, I remember saying to you, here's some pictures of the moon, and you went, yes, I'm in.
Yeah.
Hilariously, it was also a hard program.
Oh, yes, it was.
Because we did Max Richter's recomposed Vivaldi Four Seasons. What is it like to have to unlearn Vivaldi's Four Seasons?
Fine, because I really love the Richter. It's very because I know that there have been many composers who try to take classic works and put them in the 21st century or in modern day, and most of the time it's okay, but in this case it's brilliantly successful. And now I can't, when I hear the Four Seasons in my head, I still hear Richter's recomposed Four Season. It's the way he does some of the rhythms is so current and so today. And I think I was saying to you that the very last movement, it sounds like shopping during Christmas time, when you're just like, I've got this list, I better get that that whatever doll that's the must have for the kid, and you're just trying to avoid each other, and as you do your last minute preparation, I mean, is quite brilliant.
It is brilliant, and it's funny. I also find myself when I hear the actual Four Seasons. There's a commercial currently on TV using the first movement of Winter, and when I hear it, I'm shocked that the meter doesn't change.
Exactly.
Like, wait a minute. No, that's the new version. Right.
Because the meter should change, right?
It was so good.
Yeah, it was so good because he's talking about how the icicles, that first day when it is freezing outside and there's like a sheet of ice, and you're desperately trying not to fall, and the way he changes the meter sounds like as we're trying to maneuver and not fall over or taking a total complete slip.
Yeah, exactly. You also on that show had to do the Eventide by Kenneth Fuchs.
Yes,
another
correct.
21st century piece of music.
Yes.
That was I remember sending it first to Erin and then to you, because I sent it to Erin. Erin Brophy was our soloist. She was playing the English horn, and I said, do you like this English horn concerto? And about 20 minutes later I got a, oh my god, yes. Are we doing it? And I said, well, you actually might have to do it 3 times. And then I sent it to you, and you went, oh my god, yes. Because it also, what I heard in it and why I really wanted us to do it for this show was it sounds like moon music.
Yes.
Like music you might pick if you were going to the moon in a strange adventure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I know that the composer was talking about that magical time between twilight and the deepest, darkest part of the evening, and all those moments where even as little children, till whatever age, we go outside and we look at the moon, and at that exact perfect hour when the light starts to change, and it does sound like moon music. You're absolutely right.
My favorite part of that whole concert weekend, we did 3 performances, 3 sold-out concerts, sold out months in advance.
Yes.
My favorite part of that whole weekend was sending you the photos on Saturday morning, and you texted me back and said, is that what it looks like? Because, and we heard this from many of the musicians too, until they saw the photos, you had all been so focused on the music, because it was hard, that you saw the moon, but you didn't really realize what it would look like for it to be performing under it.
Right.
And that reaction was just wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Even that, I remember the first day that you were the installation was happening, and when I walked into the church, and it was maybe in the afternoon, it was overwhelming. Like, that work of art was so stunning, and to think that we would be sandwiched between, Monique's art.
Vicissitude.
Yes, and this incredible work, and then we were going to be making gorgeous music with our friends and colleagues. I mean, how nice.
Yeah. And then we took you to the airport, and you said, "It's so long till I'm here again." Careful what you wish for. Well, now we have been as you see, each of the staff, each of the musicians were all like, "Oh, thank goodness, Judith, thank you so much," because this was such a this is one of the things that happens in the music industry is somebody gets sick, worse, something really serious has happened, or most unfortunate, because you have to experience is flights, which you also, I mean, you had a very long travel day from St. John's, Newfoundland, all the way to Saskatoon, with a 5-hour stop at home.
Yes. I had to take a car service from Toronto to Guelph, which is where my house is, and that is an hour and a half ride. So I got there, I got some different clothing, offloaded some things, and then just went back to the airport.
We had the scores waiting for you at the hotel desk.
That's right.
Yes. And inside all of that conversation, we started talking about the opening piece of the program. We were originally going to be doing Coleman Taylor Perkinson's Worship. It's an overture for orchestra. Coleman Taylor Perkinson was a 20th century composer in the States. His parents named him after Samuel Coleridge Taylor. And so hilariously, he then also became a composer, I suggested, I think we need to sub this out because you don't know it, and I think you're already doing a lot of work. And then the conversation turned to, what do you know, and what do you, and I'm really excited with what we ended up with, because the overture to Verdi's La Forza del Destino is probably 6 of the best minutes of music ever written. Have you done the whole opera?
No, I haven't. I know.
Now, can you explain the plot of the opera to the audience here?
Let's see. Young man and a young woman fell in love. The father of the young woman did not approve of the love interest, so I think they planned to elope. And she said, but I just want to spend, because I love my father, and I just want to spend a bit more time with him before I just kind of, disappear and never see him again. And in the meantime, didn't her father pull a gun on her fiance? Yeah. And
sword, probably.
A sword or something like that. And then it went off, and it killed her father.
It kills her. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know how this works. It is.
Yeah.
The music is incredible.
Yes, okay,
the plot is a bit.
It's because it gets crazier, doesn't it?
It gets so. I will never forget the first time I saw Forza, because it doesn't really make sense.
No.
But the best part is, every couple of half hours, there's brilliant music. There's some moments in between that are less Verdi strong. And then he throws, pace pace mio Dio at you, and it's one of the greatest soprano arias ever written.
Yes.
And it is an opera full of beautiful music. The story, not so much, but the overture is stunning. So when we settled on that, then is it in the library? When was the last time we did it? Does it have bowings? And I actually even said, who cares if it has bowings? They'll just play without bowings. The strings can just play however they wish. It'll be fine. Yes. We're living on the edge here, folks. And it hasn't been done since 2009.
Yes.
So it's a long time. So then we had to let the musicians know, and all of a sudden musicians are coming back to the office yesterday morning to get their music ahead of time so that they can learn it before rehearsal last night. It's what this is a great reminder of, is how everybody pitches in to make something magical happen, which I think is actually what orchestras do on a day-to-day basis anyway.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, was so impressed with the orchestra, because you did mention to me that they were coming in. It is not an easy overture. There's
It's not an easy program.
no, no, it isn't. Yeah, and so I said to the orchestra, I said, oh, okay, I see you might have to drag me through tonight's rehearsal, because I just got in at 3:30 in the morning. And I said, and I know originally your plan is that you're only going to work on the Dvorak, but for me we have to go through everything just so that I'm reminded of what I really don't, I don't need to know a bit better. So they played it. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, they were excited and ready to help you out.
Yes.
That overture is explosive. It's romantic.
Mhm.
It's dramatic.
Yes.
Overly so.
Yes.
In the best possible Verdi way. You do love Verdi.
I do.
As long as I've known you, every time I talk to you about repertoire, you're like, "What about Verdi?"
Yeah. What about Verdi?
So.
Requiem.
Yeah.
The Requiem.
Yeah. Every time, almost every conversation. So we get to do some Verdi with you, which we're really thrilled about.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. This overture is so magical. It has everything in it. It has revenge, right? The theme of revenge, isn't it? Because I don't think we mentioned that. I think in Act 2, the brother shows up and says, "I am going to avenge my father's death," and spends the rest of the opera chasing after them. And then somehow they end up in a monastery. And there's
As one does.
yeah, it just.
It's like at the end of Manon Lescaut when they end up in New Orleans, and you're like, "What? That's not even near Paris. How is this? This doesn't make any sense."
It does not.
No. We are also really thrilled because Rap-Peg. So the Rachmaninoff Rhapsody on the Theme of Paganini is a unique piece of music. He wrote his 4 piano concertos. This is sort of a piano concerto. Esque.
Yeah.
It's for piano and orchestra bits and bobs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of piano notes.
Yes.
There's a lot of moments where you actually have to maneuver between what the piano is doing and kind of bring them in for their flashes of, ooh, look at the orchestra. Yeah. Literally. It also, it features one of Paganini's most incredible, probably his most famous melody.
Mm-hmm.
Which is almost more of a rhythmic motive than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachmaninoff spins it in 24 variations?
Yes, 24 variations, and I think based on variation number 24, is that, I
Yes.
think? And I just found this out today that Rachmaninoff used to be very nervous when he had to perform the 24th variation, and he would, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, the liqueur creme de menthe.
Oh yeah, creme de menthe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he would have a shot of creme de menthe hidden in the piano. For number 24.
Don't joke. I've got
Yeah.
creme de menthe at home.
Yeah, okay, there you go. See, it's all meant
That's
to be.
what we're having backstage
Yeah.
this week.
And he would do it. He would like so it became that's the nickname for variation number 24. And did you not get that text from me? I saying that's variation 24. Oh my gosh.
Because it just runs, like it just takes off. It gallops. It's a horse without a handler.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really excited to have Lucille Chung coming. We've been trying to get Lucille here for a number of years. Canadian pianist, now living in the States, and for many, many years of her career toured extensively with her husband Alessio Bax as Bax and Chung. And so I'm really thrilled that she's coming to do this. She actually has not played this piece since her teen years, because some people can play it when they're teenagers. It's not me. And so she was thrilled to get a chance to relearn it, and so she's really excited to get to work with you because she said, it's just like you play it, but for the orchestra there's not a lot to bite into because the piano takes up so much of the time. But for the pianist, there's nothing to interact with without the orchestra there.
Yes.
It also, if I recall correctly, has some tricky moments.
Oh, many.
Yeah.
Because we read through it yesterday, and we were, some of us were giggling, because you can fall into a hole, like, oops, don't play now. So it's tricky. I'm so really glad that we went through it yesterday, because now we're all aware of here are the.
How do you do that? I'm going to ask this question. So because most people, I think, don't realize that the soloist doesn't show up till Friday,
Right.
And you'll get kind of 20 minutes with them before the orchestra arrives. You talk it through. I mean, I've watched a lot of what they call piano rehearsals, and with all sorts of soloists, not just pianists. And I mean, really, there's not a whole lot of work you can really get done. And then then the orchestra gets there.
Yes.
And you have to magically put it together, but you've rehearsed it without the soloist. How that's hard.
Yes, in the case of yesterday, because we had, a lot of times, what you're doing is you're budgeting. I feel like I'm always budgeting time. I've got the clock there, and I reserve exactly enough time to do the tricky bit, so you don't do everything. There are certain things that are just it's intuitive. It's people. You need the soloist there. You're planting a chord or something, but then there are other parts that are kind of, it's like a video game, right? So we did the video games. We all failed miserably, okay, which is fine. But we're hoping.
In a video game, you always have another life.
Yeah, not this.
Well,
this is the one chance. This is it. And so we're hoping that by Friday we're going to, get to the finish line without any.
It's because of the slow variation. Is that variation 16 or 18?
I can't remember. Yeah, it's 18.
None of the staff are looking up either, so I'm thinking it's variation 18.
I think it's 18.
18,
Yeah.
which is the real romantic winner of this piece, and why we called this concert Rachmaninoff Romance, because he inverts the melody and gives us this sweeping romance, which has sort of been void. You've had virtuosity, you've had drama, you've had tension, you've had sensation of anticipation, and almost like a murder mystery thriller.
Yes.
The way he builds the score, and then he gives you some of the most romantic music ever
It's
written.
incredible, and especially after there's about 3 movements that it's the Dies
Irae.
So, which is interesting because Paganini, I found out was his name it means little pagan.
It does. And supposedly his mother sold his soul to the devil, so he'd be a good violinist.
Yeah, that's what I read too. And also
As you do.
that when he passed away, they wouldn't the Catholic Church wouldn't
bury
him.
No, wouldn't do the requiem. No.
No.
So, and it's interesting. There's a lot of folklore around Paganini because I mean, he really sold this idea of his soul had been sold to the devil. He would show up. He was the first to play from memory, if I recall. First solo artist to play from memory. He was also, of the day, he was one of the few solo artists who would improvise on stage right there without. There was a lot of improvisation in Baroque music, etc. But Paganini would take a theme and just create something new on his own. He was very tall, very handsome, long hair, long black hair, would wear these black sweeping capes and things. So he kind of really played up this idea of, and so when he throws in the Dies Irae into this piece, it's really fascinating.
It is. You're really playing into the idea of Paganini having this mythical reputation, and then he gives you the most beautiful. I think it's one of the most beautiful melodies, of the Romantic era, and it's gorgeous. So.
And it really is a highlight. Speaking of gorgeous, the second half of the concert is Dvorak's 7th Symphony. And we were talking earlier, it is probably, I think it's his best symphony.
Yes.
Everybody loves Symphony Number 9. It's good, it's great. But Dvorak's 7 is perfect. It's from a symphonic perspective, it is, and he had written a bunch of symphonies. 5 of them real losers. They weren't good. So much so that when the 7th Symphony was published, it was technically published as number 2 because number 1 was number 6. And then many years after his death, we went, wait a minute, there were 5 early symphonies, we should count those too. If you have to. But he'd been at a concert where he had heard Brahms's 3rd Symphony and went, this is revolutionary. I need to write a new symphony. And the London Philharmonic Society had said to him,
Yes.
"We'd like to commission a symphony," and off he went. And what I find fascinating about this work, it's clearly in the palette of Brahms, which of course grew out of the palette of Beethoven, and so you have this great symphonic tradition tying Dvorak's 7 kind of to the late Beethoven symphonies and to those Brahms symphonies, and unlike those works, most of which were truly absolute music, written for music purposes, Dvorak really was preoccupied with the oppression of the Czech people that was occurring at the time, and there were actually, he talks about how he had the idea for the first theme after seeing a train arrive from Prague. They had students who'd been at a protest about the oppression of the Czech people, and so there is this darkness to this work that is stubborn, and it is focused, and it is with the intent of standing up for his people. And he wrote about how he wanted this to be the music of rebellion for the Czech people. And I think it feels fascinating to do it today, in a time when we are still looking at the world's oppressive nature and the political ramrodding that happens to specific cultures. All that context, you're going to pull that off on Saturday.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Well, because it really does have a darkness to it.
It is amazing. It is romantic in an entirely different way. Not romantic as in a romantic love, but like it's love you feel for your people, your community. It's actually so gorgeous. Like there's that one moment at the very beginning. I mean, pretty much about 20 seconds into it, where it's, I think, the most beautiful bar of music I've ever seen. It's so stunning and so and it didn't really occur to me till now. Hearing your description of the opening, that it dawned on me. It's not a love for your romantic partner, but it's a love for your country and your people.
Yeah, and you can really hear that heartbreak in that second the second movement,
oh
because
my gosh,
he's trying to capture. That first movement is he's declaring something in a way, and that second movement is then that love of nation, that love of people. That and it's fascinating to think about it in today's context. Hearing stories. Because war, oppression, etc., is actually people.
Yes.
And we forget that when we just watch news coverage. And I mean, they didn't even have the same news coverage we have now.
Yes.
And in that second movement, it's like you say, it's romance, but it's not romance.
Yeah.
It's not intimate romance. It's
exactly.
It's for something greater.
Actually, it occurred to me when we were reading through yesterday, that the opening of the second movement sounds like a national anthem, but he put it with the woodwinds, so it really sounds like a group of people just gathering for no other reason but to sing the national anthem. And I still remember the Czechoslovakia national anthem, which is one of the most beautiful national anthems ever. It's really so emotional, even though that I think was written maybe in the 40s but yeah. So that tradition of I think love for your country, your people, your family, your community, I think is very much part of all our cultures, but specifically for some reason with the Czech.
Yeah. Well, and intriguingly, I was just recently at a conference in Poland, and a colleague of mine from one of the orchestras in Czechia talked about how it's still only in recent years that Czechia has actually had its own nation, because of course Czechoslovakia separated. What was that in the 90s for sure? It was only 7 years ago that Czechia stood up at the UN and said, we're not the Czech Republic, we're Czechia. Could you please stop calling us the Czech Republic?
Yeah.
And so, you know, and it was funny to hear this from someone who lives there and talk about, like, this is such an old country, with such old family histories, with stories, and he, you know, to feel the urgency in what, particularly in the last movement,
Oh my goodness.
which is
yes.
just a cry for his people,
Yeah.
to feel that urgency and to have it in the context not only of Czechia today, but the world we are currently
Yes.
occupying.
Yes. Yeah. His last, the last 8 measures, like, you know, last maybe 10 seconds of the music, if you look at the score, you think, where did that come from? It's all of a sudden completely out of, feels out of context. But when you hear the whole work as a whole, it makes absolute sense. The last bit is all of a sudden maestoso, and it's like, you know, twice as slow.
Yeah.
Out
Yeah.
of nowhere.
And
Yeah.
intriguingly, in the publishing of this piece, he was oppressed.
Yes, he was.
The publisher was a word I can't say in polite company. A German publisher who essentially set out to put his thumb on top of Dvorak and shut him down. Said, I won't publish it with the name Antonin Dvorak. We'll call you Anton, because Antonin is Czech, and we're not calling you Antonin. And the entire publication is going to be in German. And paid him half of what was acceptable fee. Refused to acknowledge that the London Philharmonic Society had paid for the commissioning of it. And eventually, after much argument, and I mean, it was hugely successful. It was an instant hit. It really set a major change in Dvorak's career, and you can see that in the music afterwards. But he still had to fight for his right, and eventually he was properly paid. And eventually it was able to be published in Czech, but not for decades.
That's so awful.
Isn't it? Like, so it's a great reminder of how this music is so timeless, because for him it was an expression of something he believed so deeply, something that was so deeply held in his soul, and eventually he went out.
It really is. I think one of the most not original but personal works I've ever seen. Every bar of it speaks so much of him as you know, the politics of the time, and I think it's one of the most beautiful symphonies
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
So glad you programmed it.
I'm glad you know it. And are relearning it this week.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, because when the car dropped me off at home, I ran down, went through my library, and I remember texting you in a panic, going, I can't find it. I don't know where the Dvorak is, because the idea was, oh, why don't you just stay at the airport? Then you don't have to come, extra 3 hours of transport. But I wanted my scores because it's already marked. So I managed to find, I only one. I couldn't find the Verdi Forza. I don't know where it was. So
There you go. And yeah, you texted me and I said, don't worry, scores are already at the hotel.
That's so funny.
We had them ready for you.
Yeah.
In a concert with this kind of emotional roller coaster, really, from piece to piece to piece, and with this week's emotional roller coaster and jet lag, you are about 3.5 hours ahead of us still.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and to go from Newfoundland to Saskatchewan, a bit different.
Well, it was very sunny here. I was so happy. I was texting my better half. I said, "Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so sunny and it's warm."
And we didn't even have snow for you, so that's nice.
That's true, but I have to say your airport is deceptive, because when you're waiting for the luggage and you look outside, always the sidewalk is white.
Yes.
And I keep thinking
We just try to prepare people for it. We just want to ease them into it. Everything's going to be white soon, so. Thank you so much for being here in a rush, crazy moment.
Yeah.
And
Thank you
for
having me.
this is weirdly conductors, I mean, this happens all the time.
Mhm.
In this case, you had to fly across country, but I mean, lots of conductors, you step in at the last minute
Yes.
to conduct things
Yes.
that you might know incredibly well. You might know a little bit. You might not know at all.
Yeah.
And you, I mean, you work a lot in ballet and in opera. That happens a lot in ballet and opera, where all of a sudden we're fourth show of the run, and so's sick, and here you go,
Yes.
off you go.
Exactly.
And is it, how do you adjust to that? Do you adjust to that? Do you just ride the wave?
I just ride the wave. First of all, when you see a text from your friend and beloved colleague, and you're reading it, I'm thinking, he's not outright saying, "What are you doing?" And I'm right now so exhausted and very stressed. What do I say? And so, but then the funny thing was on the way home to get my things, we were talking about repertoire, because thank goodness now Air Canada has texting. So we were texting on my way. About repertoire, what we're gonna do, and then I was texting with Karen about flights. So that all happened in the air.
Thanks to modern times.
Yes, and then
'Cause otherwise,
that's, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
The
so.
alternative might have been
Mhm.
me conducting it, and that's
Oh,
a
that would
terrible,
have been
terrible
fabulous.
idea.
I think that would have been wonderful.
Terrible idea.
No, but I think you mentioned about opera and ballet. That has been very, very good training, because it's very much, your job is to get in that pit and serve all these people on the stage. So you just do it, and then with this, especially ballet, it's like 15 shows over 2 weeks. And I remember the first time
30 if it's Nutcracker.
Yeah, I know. That's why you. Thank God the music's good. But I remember the first time I did Sleeping Beauty, which is quite difficult and long. I had to do 5 over Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 5 of them over 3 days. So it's very good training. You just like, okay. So I just thought, okay, I just pretended I was handed this. This is your next assignment. Just get back on that plane, come to Saskatoon.
Make music with friends.
That's that's it. I mean, I wasn't kidding. I said
No, and I mean also, I wasn't kidding when I said that when the staff were like, "Is Judith available?" And musicians, as I started reaching out to musicians, they're going, "Is Judith available?" And I'm going, "I'm not messaging Judith. She's going on to stage. I'm not messaging." And when we did finally let people know that yes, Judith is going to be coming, people were so relaxed. So that speaks volumes to the relationship you have with the orchestra. So.
Oh, well, I love the orchestra. I think it's my 7th show with them, and I did jokingly.
What are you doing next week? No, that's two.
I was saying, this is the great thing about the industry and that we're in. Even though it is sad, like in a way, you make these wonderful friends that are from all over the world, but then you get together, you do these great shows like The Moon, and you can't help but have a natural emotional connection to the people you're collaborating with, the musicians that you're making this beautiful music with, and the audience too. So you can't help it, right? You have this, and then all of a sudden you're there for a week, or in the case of an opera, 4 weeks, and then you're gone, and you might not see them for a year, 3 years, or in my case, like May, right? I was thinking, we were just saying, I have to wait till May before I get to hang out, and then this happened.
Don't worry, you won't need to be here for next week for the Joni show.
Okay.
We've got that covered, I'm fairly certain.
Okay.
Although now that I'm thinking about it, I should call Carl and make sure he's well. He just come home from Germany. And you will be back in May for Beethoven 9, for an epic Beethoven 9.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
See you at the show.